Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review, and today I was meant to go out for a run, but we've been having some shocking Melbourne spring weather where there's a lot of rain outside, and so this morning I went outside but it was pelting down rain, so I thought, no, I've got to get back inside and do this book review. So I'm really chuffed to review this book today because it's from an author I hadn't read before, but every time someone mentions this author, he gets rave reviews, and that is Murakami, Men Without Women. And this one is the second Murakami book that I read. The first one was when I talk about running, and when I read that book, I was so interested in his writing and the way he writes that I bought this one. Because I have not read any of his other books, his fiction novels, and they all seem very big novels, I thought I need to kind of slowly get myself into a new author, because I don't know, if I buy a big novel, I might not finish it if I don't like his writing. So I thought I'll get this one because it's got 7 short stories, and it's a great way of being introduced to a new author through 7 short stories which are fiction. All these stories relate to, obviously, men without women. The reviews of this book are all positive. Everything from it's Murakami at his whimsical romantic best, supremely enjoyable, philosophical and pitch perfect. Mail on Sunday describes this book as poignant and inventive. Vogue says that it's a disconcertingly funny portrait of modern loneliness, although I wouldn't term this book funny. The Independent called it hypnotizing, and that's a really good way of describing this book and the writing. It was published by Random House. I love the design. That was another reason why I chose this book. I thought interesting design, and I saw this little blue swirl here, and I thought, did I actually drop something there? But no, it's actually in the design itself. It's a good looking book, isn't it? And let's face it, we want good looking books on our shelves, but don't let that stop you not reading the book. Anyway, so Murakami, Men Without Women. What is this book about? Well, it's about 7 short stories, and in these short stories, all the characters are male characters, obviously. They're all of different ages, they all come from different backgrounds, they're all of even different abilities and disabilities as well. So we get stories about men in all sorts of different situations. We've got a chauffeur who is jaded with women. He's an actor, and all he wants is a chauffeur who can take him from all his appointments, but we realize he doesn't really have much of a life, and he gets given, I guess, a chauffeur who's a female and who also kind of reflects his own, I guess, disconnection from the world as well. So I love how all the characters, even though they've got male characters, they've got the opposite female characters who are reflective and who get them to question certain things, but also are flawed in themselves, if that makes sense. Stories of a young man who pushes his girlfriend onto his best friend, and then there's a little twist as to what happens there. There's a 50-plus-year-old doctor who's very successful with women, has a whole life where he's a single man and he just doesn't want any connections, but he falls in love with the wrong woman, and then what happens there? A story about a disabled guy who has a woman who visits him and provides services and also helps him around the house as well. So there's also a story about, very similar to Kafka's Metamorphoses, which I had to look into because I had not read Kafka's Metamorphoses. You know, the bug where he changes into a dung beetle. This guy wakes up thinking that he's Gregor Samsa, and I had to look up Gregor Samsa. Out of all things, I had to look up Gregor Samsa, and it got me down a rabbit warren of how the COVID and the pandemic has somehow made us transform, like Gregor Samsa, into people that we may or may not understand anymore. And so this book actually got me interested in this whole idea of metamorphosis as well. Men Without Women, and the stories here are really quite beautiful. They're evocative, they are sad, they are tinged with sadness, but overall they are also quite human, quite human. It is a beautiful book. I love this book and I love the stories. If you're thinking about a story with a start and a clear end that you could put down the chapter in the book and you go, you know what, that was a really interesting story. In actual fact, the stories are kind of open-ended. There's no end to them. And if you are someone who expects an end, you're not going to get it with this book. In actual fact, the book will just give you more questions, but you'll come away going, okay, how sad. But sad, but also real life. I know, it's really hard to explain. It is hard to explain. It is actually quite, I guess poignant is, whoever mentioned poignant, it's spot on. So look, I loved Men Without Women because they were just stories of real life, stories about the relationships between real men and real women as well, and all the imperfections that happen within a relationship. But then somehow you come away thinking, this is life. This is life. This is what it is. So this is Murakami's Men Without Women. I'm so looking forward to reading more of his books. I've put some of his books on hold, on reservation in the library, but I think this author is going to make up now my collection on my bookshelves. So let me know what you think. Have you read any of Murakami's books? What other books do you suggest I read and start from as a new beginner? Bearing in mind that the only 2 books that I've read of his is what I talk about when I talk about running and this book. So what do you suggest I read next of Murakami's? So thank you for listening and thank you for watching. Bye for now.